My dad promised to help me pay for college. I got accepted with honors, took a second job, did everything right. The week before tuition was due, he gambled the money away. Life's a gamble, kid. Learn early, he said, lighting a cigar. I dropped out that month. But what I did with the rest of my life made him. I don't care if this gets long. People need to know what kind of man my father really was. I grew up in Reno, Nevada. Not the glitzy strip you see on postcards. Just the worn-down neighborhoods and dusty trailer parks a few blocks away from broken slot machines and old drunk men sleeping on benches. My dad, Marty, was one of those guys who always had a story. Always cracking jokes, slapping backs, charming people into thinking he had everything figured out. But he didn't. He had a drinking problem. A lying problem. And a gambling problem that ruined everything. My mom left when I was 10. One night she packed a bag and walked out without a word. I heard the front door close and never saw her again. I found out years later she'd had enough. He pawned her wedding ring during a weekend bender. She just never looked back. I stayed behind because I didn't know where to go, and maybe part of me thought he'd change. He never did. I was the quiet kid. The one who kept his head down and worked. I did everything right. Honor roll. National Honor Society. Part-time jobs. I didn't party. I didn't screw around. I saved. I applied to every scholarship I could find. Senior year, I got accepted to the University of Oregon. Full ride? No. But I had grants, loans, and I only needed about $11,000 to cover the rest of my first year. I told my dad. He cried. Real tears. He told me he was proud of me. Said, "You're the first in the family to do something real. I got you, kid. Don't worry about the money. I'll take care of it." And I believed him. He said he'd been setting aside money from working extra shifts at the casino bar. I knew he'd had some big tips during tournament season. He said he had it under control. Just focus on packing and saying goodbye to your loser friends, he told me. So I did. I kept working my jobs, early morning shifts at the grocery store, late nights wiping down cars at the car wash. I had a move-in date. I had my class schedule printed out. I even found a used laptop online for school. But something felt off that last week before tuition was due. My dad wasn't home much. When he was distant. Snappy. I thought maybe he was stressed trying to pull everything together. I gave him space. Then Sunday came. I walked into the garage around 4 p.m. He was sitting in an old plastic chair, cigar in one hand, a half-empty beer in the other. His feet were up on a cooler. He looked way too relaxed for someone who was supposed to hand over 11 grand in less than 48 hours. I asked, "Hey. You got the money ready for tuition?" He didn't even look at me. Just exhaled a cloud of smoke and said, "Life's a gamble, kid. Learn early." I froze. What? He looked over at me then, smirked like he was proud. I put it on a parlay last night. 5 teens. Could have flipped it double. Would have covered more than your first year. I stared at him. You bet my college money on a game? He nodded. Almost won too. Damn Chargers blew it in the fourth. That's the risk. I felt something snap in my chest. Not just anger. Something worse. Like a switch turning off. All the nights I stayed up studying. All the hours I worked. All the hope I had in him. Gone. You lost everything? I asked. He shrugged. Don't look at me like that. It was mine to bet. I earned it. I didn't answer. I just turned around and walked back to my room. I shut the door. I opened my laptop, went to the university portal, and withdrew. I sent one message. Due to a family issue, I am unable to attend this semester. Then I sat in the dark for 2 hours. And that was the last time I felt sorry for him. I stopped speaking to him. Moved out a month later and crashed on a buddy's couch. Found a job at a mechanic shop, then picked up weekend shifts at a diner. I worked nonstop and never looked back. But I never forgot. Because while I was broke and scraping by, my dad kept living like nothing happened. He kept gambling, drinking, smiling. Telling people his son was off at college. Lying like always. So I made a decision. I wasn't going to yell. I wasn't going to fight. I was going to destroy his name. His reputation. And everything he cared about. And I did. I started small. First, I got a job as a valet at the very casino where my dad worked. He didn't even notice me. He worked nights, bartending in the VIP section. I worked days and weekends. Different shifts. Different floors. But I kept my ears open. Watched. Listened. Turns out, my dad wasn't just gambling his money away, he was helping other people do it too. Offering private bets. Friendly wagers, he called them. Off the books. All under the table. He was taking cash from tourists, sometimes even borrowing chips from regulars, promising double returns. It was illegal. And if the casino found out, he'd be done. So I started collecting proof. I kept notes. Dates. Names. I even recorded a few conversations with my phone in my pocket. One guy, a drunk dentist from Fresno, said, "Marty's the man. Doubled my payout last time." Another woman, a travel agent, slipped him an envelope one night. I saw it. Thick wad of cash. I took a picture. Meanwhile, I started talking to a guy named Rick who worked in surveillance. Said he hated my dad. Called him a loudmouth scumbag who tips like garbage. I played it cool at first, but after a few weeks, I told him who I was. "You're his kid," he said, eyes wide. "No way." "Was," I said. "Not anymore." Then I showed him what I had. He laughed so hard he almost choked on his energy drink. "This is gold, man." He agreed to help. Pulled security footage. Matched dates. We built a folder, photos, videos, audio clips. Names and times. It wasn't just enough to get my dad fired. It was enough to get him blacklisted. Still, I waited. Because I wanted more than his job. I wanted him humiliated. I learned he was planning something big. A private poker tournament, hosted at a rich guy's house up in Arrow Creek. My dad bragged about it to anyone who'd listen. "This is my shot," he told his buddies at the bar. "I win that pot, I retire early. Buy a boat. Move to Florida." So I made a call. I sent an anonymous email to the casino manager. Attached the folder. Let them know Marty was representing their brand at an illegal tournament, running side bets, and dealing cards with dirty money. And then I waited. The night of the game, the place got raided. Cops stormed in. Shut it down. People were pissed, screaming. Some got arrested. My dad? He ran. Literally ran down the street, drunk, in his socks. Next morning, he got called into the casino. Fired on the spot. Security walked him out. He showed up at my apartment 2 days later, eyes bloodshot, shirt untucked. I hadn't seen him in almost a year. "You did this," he said. I didn't deny it. "You ruined me." I looked him dead in the eye. "You did that to yourself. I just gave people the receipts." He broke down crying on my doorstep. I didn't let him in. I wasn't done yet. After he got fired, things got worse for him fast. Turns out, the casino had been turning a blind eye to a lot of his crap because he brought in high rollers. Once they had proof he was scamming players and running bets behind the scenes, they passed the folder I made to the Nevada Gaming Control Board. He got banned from every casino in the county. Blacklisted. Couldn't even step foot in a lobby without security following him out. He tried working at a dive bar on the edge of town. Lasted a month. Word got around. No one tipped him. Customers told him to go screw himself. One guy even threw a drink in his face. My dad, the big man who used to walk around like he owned the city, now couldn't get a job serving watered-down beer. But I wasn't done. I found out something else, something even worse. Years ago, before Mom left, she'd taken out a joint life insurance policy. My name was listed as the secondary beneficiary, but only if both parents were deceased. She never canceled it. And my dad? He'd borrowed against it. I saw the records. He'd pulled out $18,000 over the years in small chunks. Technically legal. Ethically disgusting. He was spending what would have been my fallback safety net, more gambling money, more booze. So I called my mom. First time in years. She was in Colorado, remarried, doing okay. When I told her what happened, she cried. Not because she still loved him, but because she realized he'd destroyed me too. He said he'd changed, she said. He sent letters after I left. He didn't, I said. He just got better at hiding it. We talked for a while. Then I asked her a question. Can you help me transfer that policy out of his control? She said yes. Took a few weeks of paperwork, but eventually, we moved the policy. If something ever happened to him, the money wouldn't go to cover his debts, it would go to me. It wasn't much anymore, but it was mine. A few days after that, I got a call from Rick at the casino. You won't believe this, he said, laughing. Your old man's living in his car. I checked. It was true. He was sleeping in a beat-up Oldsmobile near the train tracks. No job. No house. No friends left. The guy who once told me life's a gamble, kid, was now losing that gamble every single day. Still. Something didn't feel done. So I set up one last move. I started volunteering at a local youth center that helped kids from broken homes. Most of them had stories like mine, deadbeat parents, empty promises, anger they didn't know what to do with. I didn't tell them much about my past at first. Just helped with tutoring, taught basic car maintenance on weekends. Then I told them about my dad. Not his name, but the story. One kid, a tall, quiet 15-year-old named Jalen, looked me dead in the eyes and said, "You ever get even?" I said, "I'm not done yet." That stuck with me. One day I visited my dad's car. He was parked in a crumbling lot behind an old gas station. I waited until he was gone, probably begging for change at a convenience store or pulling some scam at a soup kitchen, and I popped the hood. I poured sugar into his gas tank. A lot of it. I slashed 2 tires. Smashed the side mirrors with a crowbar. Then I taped something to the windshield. It was a copy of my tuition bill from the year I dropped out. I'd written in big red marker, "You taught me well." Next morning, I got a text from a blocked number. "You're a monster." I didn't reply. Months passed. I kept working. Moved to Oregon eventually. Took night classes while working full-time. Took me longer, but I got my degree. Not in business, like I'd planned when I was younger, but in counseling. I wanted to work with kids like me. Years later, I was working at a high school in Portland when I got a call from a hospital back in Reno. "Mr. Wexler," the nurse said, "your father's dying. Liver failure. He's asking to see you." I said nothing for a moment. Then I said, "He's not my father." I hung up. He died 3 days later. Alone. There was no funeral. No obituary. Just a death certificate and a bill. They asked me if I wanted the body. I said no. Let the state take it. But I did one thing. I took the life insurance money and donated all of it, every last cent, to the youth center where I started. They built a new wing with that money. They named it after someone else. No one remembers my father anymore. But every time I walk past that building, I remember what he said with that stupid cigar in his mouth: "Life's a gamble, kid." Yeah. But I learned how to stack the deck.